Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will be talking about SQL views. In previous videos, we had talked about SQL from the very get-go, from select statements up until the last videos where we talked about SQL subqueries. So in this video, we talk about SQL views. SQL views. So this is what we talk about today. So, what is SQL view, or what are SQL views, and when do we use them? SQL views saves us time by saving a query in such a way that we don't have to retype this query again and again, especially when we would be using the results from that query repeatedly. For example, this is just an example to illustrate what I'm saying. Let's look at the book database, book, and authors table. And let's say we want to find information pertaining to some authors, right? And let's say the authors we want information from or on are authors from the age of, let's say, 35 and above. So that means authors from the age of 35 and above from this authors table, that's like a subsection of our table, a subsection of our authors table. So when we need information repeatedly from a subsection of a given table, we use SQL views to prevent typing and retyping and retyping. So for example, let's say just like the query I mentioned now, we want to select. So this is everything. This is everything from that table, book dot authors. So when you run this, you have 52 rows. But let's say we want information on authors from age 35 and above. So that's now is a where statement, where age is less than or greater than, actually, let's say greater than 34. So when we run this, we have now 40 tables. So it's possible that we may want at some point to find all the names of authors that are aged 35 and above. And it's possible at some point to want to count how many they are. And it's possible that at some point we just want some other information from this um, sub table, right? Let's call it a sub table because it's a subset of the authors table. So instead of having to type this again, at this point we have count. We just want to count. If we wanted just the names, we would have name. Instead of having to write this again and again and again, we'll just use an SQL view. So what an SQL view does is it does save the SQL query itself. It doesn't save the result from the query. It doesn't save, let me put back this. SQL views does not save this result. It doesn't save this result. What it does is it saves only the query in such a way that you can reuse the query again and again and again by just mentioning the name of the view. So let's write an example of a view. So, um, like I said, a view is a stored query. The view does not store the result. It does not store another table in our database. Instead, it just stores the query. So let's write an example of a view. To create a view, you simply start by saying create view, then the name of the view. So I want to call this view authors um, from 35, right? So this is the name of the view, authors from 35, as, then the rest of your query. So this is how a view is created. And just to reduce typing time, let me have this way. Authors, sorry, 8:35, just to reduce typing time. So when I run this, it says create view. This is successful. So this is successfully created. So at this point, I can then use the name of this view a underscore 35 to um, draw out results from the results from this query. So let's grab an example. So for example, at this point, we can say we've created the view, so we no longer need that. So let's say we want to find out the titles of all the books written by these authors that are older than 34 years, right? So we want to say select everything from A35. So now we use A35. So this is what we have. Select everything from A35. We want to select, let's run this first, just so you see. When you say select everything from A35 and you run that, it gives us exactly the results from our view, right? So now we want titles. So where do we have titles? I think that should be in the book table. Let's see. Yes, title. So that means now we would have a join, right? So let's do that. So we want to select, I'm going to alias our books table B. So let's just say B the title from A.35 um join book dot books, and of course you join on something, right? So you want to join on b.id. So this is it. Oh, b.auto id, b dot that would be book id. So this is where I have my columns from the books table. So b.auto id. So because a underscore 35 is a subset from the author's table, that means it has id columns. It has, just as we can see here, it has ID, name, and age. This ID is auto ID. So when we join a underscore 35 to the books table, we want to join on something, and that will be auto ID. Auto ID equals, so we want to join auto ID. So equals a underscore 35. You can give that an alias, but I think it's very short and there is no point for that. So that ID. So yeah, let's run this. And now we have the titles of all the books written by authors that are older than that are older than 34 years of age. That's age 35 and upwards. So this is it. So like I said, the view does not store the actual results of the query. Instead, it stores the query with a name. So when you call that name in a new query, it works as though it's already a sub table in your database. So the view is persisted and available across sessions, restarts, crashes, etc. So if I shut down and then open my pgadmin4 again, the a underscore 35 view would still be available. And it's, like I said, useful for tidying up your queries. It's useful for encapsulation. and can be helpful for security purposes. For example, we have secure data that we don't want people to see every time we type out our queries. You can store it as A35 as a view. For example, if customer's address is is a sensitive information, you can store it as a view so that every time you work with customer's address or you want to find information pertaining to customer's address, you don't always um, brandish it down here on your result all the time. So I think we would be ending this video here. The story about views is very short and straightforward. You write your query and then you just save it with a name such that every time you think about the results, you want to use the results from that query, you think about it as though it's a sub-table. When you call the name of the saved query, you can use it to work with your new query. So we're going to stop here, and in our next video we will move on to CTEs. That's a really interesting topic for us to move on to after subqueries and view. So I'll see you in the next one. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, and bye.